name is Garrett. Welcome to my very first podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Garrett's Life Experiences blog. If you don't know, I write an awesome blog that focuses on politics and history. I wanted to try something new by making a podcast to attract interest and readers to my blog. My podcast will essentially be a shortened discussion or Q&A with myself and hopefully in the future with your questions and other people's. I hope to educate and grow interest in politics. I also hope to educate people in history behind those same political happenings. If this podcast goes over well, then I may do more in the future. Eventually I hope to live stream them on Facebook because that's such a cool feature. Stay tuned for more content. To begin our podcast, I want to ask a series of questions about my latest topic I wrote about on my blog. On July 9th, I wrote about the recent string of police shootings, both on suspects and the 5 officers killed in Dallas. I appropriately titled the article, Police Violence and Racial Tensions, War Intensifies. The combination of these two things has managed to kill about 7 people in the past week alone. So first, I want to pose 3 questions. One of them is, what is one of the problems with these shootings that have killed 7 people, including 2 black men and 5 white officers? The second question is, what is another problem with the shootings? The third question is, what are the possible solutions for these shootings and violence, and can it be fixed with laws? These are the 3 questions that I want to go over, and their answers are the content of my blog post. This podcast will serve as a sort of quick alternative to reading my actual blog, because in this world of high technology, nobody has time to read my 1,000 to 1,200 word posts. It's honestly crazy how fast everything is. But anyway, the first question, what is one of the problems? I think that one problem is racism. Let me explain this in a historical perspective because I know that racism is nothing new. Obviously, being a white male, I probably understand very little about it. From what I do know about history, I can tell you that it's ingrained in our society from the slave trade at our nation's beginning to the Civil War. Then after the slaves were freed, after the Civil War, we had Jim Crow laws. Now, we have the Voting Rights Act, which is still violated in some southern states for voter suppression. One of the most important points that I want to make here is that racism cannot be fixed through laws, but through people. You can't legislate people to be not racist. One of the best things you and I can do is judge people by merit and character, not by color of skin. That's a huge problem in our society in America. We shouldn't judge people by the wrong things like skin color. Treat everyone how you would want to be treated. Moving on to the second question, what is another problem that I see? I want to point out that the political rhetoric about guns and police is quite dangerous, especially coming from the president. President Obama is probably the most guilty of this. He has consistently come out against guns and policy. His victim sympathy and his inability to objectively look at these situations is pretty frustrating. I honestly feel like the liberal media and Obama both tend to demonize guns and people of color, then use that to push their agendas. No wonder why people like the Dallas sniper don't like white cops. He was made to believe that he shouldn't like them. This rhetoric has to stop if we were to make any progress with this violence. Instead of focusing on just the problems, let's be more positive and focus on the solutions to this violence. I think that the main objective should be to lessen the amount of killings. This means by police or of police. Doesn't matter who is dying, just that it is not as often. Until the facts come out, we can't say that either of the 2 black men deserve to die, and I know for a fact that those 5 police officers didn't deserve it either. No one deserves it unless it can be avoided. One solution that I feel could work is where we take a look at how these officers are trained. I have a friend who is an NYPD cop, and one time we discussed about how police are trained in regards to guns. The basic concept is that if an officer does not feel safe, then they are allowed to draw their gun. So it's all up to their judgment whether or not to pull the trigger. In order to take racism out of the equation, we need to make a concrete rule about when they are allowed to fire their weapon. It only makes sense to only allow a gun to be fired by an officer if there are 2 conditions met. Number 1, if the suspect or suspects pose an immediate threat and an absolute threat to the lives of the police or others. Number 2, if the suspect or suspects disobey orders to not touch a gun or weapon if they have it. These are fair criteria because it protects both the police and the lives of the suspects. If you want more of my opinion and analysis, please go to my blog and read the posts. I think the main conclusion to take away from these shootings and violence is that we as people need to treat people fairly. As I said before, judging people by character and merit is better than by skin color. It doesn't help that the government tends to pass policies and laws that hurt people they intend to help. This causes even more friction between race, socioeconomic class, government, and people themselves. To end this podcast, I'll leave you with this. Treat everyone how you would like to be treated. Thanks for listening and have a great day.